our tea break talk on apprenticeships and traineeships. I'd like to thank all our panelists and you for joining us. I'll introduce each of our panelists individually when it's their turn to speak and provide information. And just to let you know, we'll also be having a question and answer session at the end. So we'll, give you the opportunity to draw on all the knowledge and expertise here today. All of our contact panelists or the contact details of all our panelists will be available after the session as well. So you can follow up with any of the experts here that you wanted to directly. We would also like to remind you that the West Limerick Resources Rural Employment Service and Specialist Youth Employment Service are here. We've been here throughout the pandemic for years and years and years before the pandemic, and we are here to help and support you in your job searching, in your decisions about your future, where you want to go. And Eddie will speak more about the Rural Employment Service and our Facebook page, West Limerick Jobs, in his section a little bit later on. But just to remind you, do contact us in the service or through our West Limerick Jobs Facebook page for more information on the supports that we can offer you. The first person I'd like to introduce you to is Paula O'Hara from Design Pro. Design Pro is a fantastic local success story here. They're based in Rathkeale. There is an automation and engineering firm, and they have a great history of taking on and developing apprentices from the local area. So welcome, Paula, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about what you guys look for when you're looking to hire an apprentice.
Okay, I suppose the first thing we'd look for is that the person can demonstrate that they have a genuine interest in the trade that they're applying for. They're not just sending out a load of applications for apprenticeships throughout different companies, but that there's a genuine in the area an interest. I suppose we also look for, is there a background and substance to the interest? We look at their choice of subjects that they're doing for the Leaving Cert, we'll say, engineering projects that they might have done, their work experience, maybe like we don't expect them to have huge work experience at that point, but they might have had a summer job, or their TY experience might link into the actual apprenticeship. We'd also look for that they have some research done into the particular trade as to what it will entail. Like for ourselves, it's mainly electrical, tool making, manufacturing, engineering, but that they have a bit of research done even into how many phases are in the apprenticeship, we say in the standard apprenticeships, the off the job and the on the job. We'd also look for commitment and how they would demonstrate that they have a commitment, for example, to the 4 years of the standard apprenticeships, and also that they have a can-do attitude. Maybe they can demonstrate examples of stuff they've done that would be of relevance to the particular apprenticeship. So they would be the main things, and that they'd be practical minded as well as academic, but practical, I suppose, from the apprenticeship side. Yeah.
Perfect. From the academic perspective, is there a minimum entry level that you would be looking for? I mean, sometimes, the lack of a Leaving Cert can be a barrier. Sometimes it's not. Where would Design Pro be looking for as the minimum qualifications prior to applying to you?
Yeah, well, I suppose in the current situation, we do look for the Leaving Cert standard, but that's not to say that we wouldn't look at somebody that is junior cert and that they really have a keen interest in the apprenticeship. So we don't really rule anybody out, but we would kind of like to get the Leaving Cert because I think it's a good standard to start with.
Absolutely.
We'd also kind of look for, like we recently there over the last few months hired 2 electrical apprentices. So we'd look for a technical and science subject that they'd have done and that they'd have a strong aptitude in maths. Mm-hmm. No, we're not saying that they have to have an honours maths, to their curriculum, but that they wouldn't be poor in maths because they're going to struggle. Even on the off-the-job sides, there is a lot of maths. Mm-hmm. And even on the tool-making apprenticeships as well, we see, you would want to have some bit of an interest in maths and you wouldn't want to be struggling, really. Mm-hmm. So that would be the minimum. Again, I suppose to reiterate, we'd kind of look, have they got some bit of a TY experience, or have they got a summer job, or even maybe an interest in maybe they have something, they help out somebody that has a business, or maybe they're technically minded at home, maybe on the farm, or, you know, maybe the parents have a business. So relevancy, I suppose, and that they can demonstrate it. That's what, like, we wouldn't want somebody that is doing the Leaving Cert and they have an awful lot of the business orientated subjects, and all of a sudden they're wanting to apply for an electrical apprentice or maybe a tool making, that there's relevance along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Is there anything, if an applicant is coming to you for an apprenticeship, is there anything that they should avoid on their CV or their cover letter or in the interview, avoid bringing attention to or saying, or are there any no-nos basically? Right.
I suppose on the application side, and even I suppose at the interview side of things, not to burden with too much information. You know, people can overload. Like, I always like a nice, concise CV, not pages of information. So I'd say don't burden the application too much. I'd say be clear and focused and to the point. And obviously accuracy is a very important, attention to detail in the actual application. But be focused and focusing on the particular trade that you're applying for. Don't be generalizing too much. And the one thing I would have seen in the past, don't be applying for several positions in the one company. Say we have 3 apprenticeships up for grabs. Don't go applying for the 3 of them because they're 3 different unique apprenticeships. So be able to demonstrate a focus and back up. And I suppose the one key thing I would also emphasize is there's no point putting something in an application or saying at an interview that you can't elaborate and talk about. I think be honest with yourself, really, and don't try to portray a different person, because at the end of the day, you're going to have a job trying to justify that when you come on board. You know, so they would be my key points, really.
And are you, tell us a little bit more about Design Pro. Are you actively looking at apprentices, or how does your business model work to take the apprentices in? And what, just to give, I suppose we know of Design Pro because we're very fortunate to have linked in with you, but if we're on the outside looking in, tell us a little bit about where Design Pro works and what kinds of, areas your
apprentices
is into. Yeah.
I suppose, first of all, for people that might know Design Pro, we've been founded in 2004, very successful business running in Rathkeil with almost 50 employees. We've engaged with the apprenticeships right through from the beginning, really, and we have a constant flow of apprentices. We may not take apprentices every year, but we'll say on the standard apprenticeships, we would have a constant flow. We'd never be without apprentices, basically. So for this year now, we have taken on 2 electrical apprentices. They only started their June direction, and we have hired a tool room, a tool maker as well. Both, actually all 3 would have been Leaving Cert students of this year. Okay. Some were able to join us a little bit earlier because they had the predicted grades. They opted for that. We also have, electrical tool making. We also have a lady employed on the manufacturing engineering apprenticeship. That's through LIT and IBEC. So she signed up just 2 years ago for the level 6 in manufacturing engineering, and that was our first time taking somebody on in that apprenticeship, and she's worked out excellent. She's going on in January of next year to do the level 7 in Sligo IT, because the intake at the time that she went into was only the certificate, and it was LIT. So unfortunately she can't continue it there, but it just shows that she's progressed, and it's very beneficial to us. So as I say, we have a constant flow of apprentices through the business. Like what we're involved in, we're a leading provider of advanced automated solutions to a variety of industries. So whether it be medical device, pharmaceutical, automotive, and we also have another aspect to our business. We have introduced robotic welding. And we are running, in conjunction with the LCETB, a robotic welding course. We're on the 3rd course now, starting before the end of the year. So that's a kind of a traineeship, even though it wouldn't be as long in duration, but it would be a traineeship, and it might develop into something longer and more on the apprenticeship style down the road. But we're the first robotic school in Ireland here in Design Pro. Yeah,
that's fantastic. That's a real.
That's robotic welding. Yeah.
Brilliant. Listen, Paula, thank you so much for your time and for sharing the insights. Great information there. Next, I'd like to welcome Eimear Brophy from Limerick and Clare ETB. She is the Further Education and Training Manager with LCETB. Now, Eimear has very kindly offered to step in and fill 2 roles today. You were to just focus on apprenticeships. Unfortunately, Joe can't join us today from the Midwest Regional Skills Forum. So you're going to cover his presentation as well. So welcome and thank you, Eimear.
Absolutely. Well, it's lovely to be here, but I'm giving an outline, which is an overview of how we have an enterprise engagement service within the Limerick and Clare Education Training Board, and then how that operates. And I'll give you the information on the apprenticeships, the traineeships, and the supports for the employers, etc. Everybody knows the old VCs and everybody remembers FOSS. They were reconfigured in 2013, and we have local education training boards. We've 16 of them around the country, and they are responsible for all further in education training, which means apprenticeships and traineeships. Now, you asked me to speak today around apprenticeships and traineeships. So we all know what an apprenticeship is. It's available to school leavers, but it's also available to career changers, diverse backgrounds, talents, abilities. We know it plays a central role to skills development in Ireland. We do know we're way behind countries like Germany and Scandinavian countries who have a different approach to apprenticeships. We have a lot of policy out there at the moment. We have a lot of new developments around the apprenticeship review. The National Skills Strategy is crying out for apprenticeships. Minister Harris is looking at revising the CAO form to include apprenticeships. And we are all aware, particularly Paula, who's at the cutting edge of it, the need to have a pipeline of talent coming through with skills. So there are 58 earn and learn career options in apprenticeships, and that is a big difference between it and other aspects of training. So we would say to everybody, look at apprenticeship.ie. Let me go to the traineeship model as well. The traineeship model is not an apprenticeship, but it's a model for specific training, and that is you can either do an apprenticeship or you can do a traineeship. The traineeship model can be a specific aspect of learning, and it's a shorter period of time. So more about that anon, but there's the 2 of them. There's an apprenticeships and traineeships. So eligibility for your apprenticeship, you must be 16 years of age, and educational requirements differ. Now, it is interesting when people think apprenticeships, they think the old craft apprenticeships. And this is a blessing, but it's also, I wouldn't say a curse, but it's a plus and a minus, because if you only think apprenticeship like an electrician, a plumber, a carpenter, which are all very laudable jobs, but you're actually forgetting that we now have apprenticeships in sales, in auctioneering, in logistics, in transport, in all different areas that are opening up. You can come through as an accounting technician. You can you can come right through the apprenticeship route into other jobs and other professions. Apprenticeship is being a visual learner. It's been a hands-on learner. It's been an experiential learner. If they are your traits in your learning journey, then look at apprenticeships. Paula talked about that, about having Leaving Cert Standard, but maybe an interest, maybe practical. That's the kind of thing employers are looking for. And that's what the whole discourse is about in talking about apprenticeships and traineeships, in showing all the options that are out there and in showing the qualifications. There are many pathways to apprenticeship. If you're not available straight away to do it, you could look at a pathway to hairdressing. You can look at pathways to culinary skills. We operate a hospitality education training centre, and we have numerous apprenticeships and traineeships coming out of that. So you can look up, I'm just conscious of that, you can look up the information. It runs in Cappamore, Croom, Limerick City. We've lots of different options there. I looked at the anatomy of a sales apprenticeship, and what's really interesting about a sales apprenticeship is everybody thinks they can sell. A lot of people think, but sure, that's just working in a shop. But it actually isn't. And you now have bricks and mortar selling, and you have online selling, and you have a whole different anatomy of a sales. So you have to have the presentation skills, you have to have the empathy, you have to know the product, you have to, young people under 25 are looking at ethical products. Look at Primark. They've to say they're talking about where their stuff is made. Is it fair trade? Look at the coffee. So there's a whole anatomy of a sales apprenticeship graduate that, quite frankly, was probably always there, but we never actually gave it kudos or named what it was. Are you motivated? Do you know your product? Can you sell me your new chocolate? Can you sell me the new IT equipment? Do you have the digital skills? Can you do the online orders? Can you look at the stories behind the product so that the people are interested? All of those are a huge part of the anatomy of a sales apprenticeship graduate. And that is one of the popular ones at the moment. And it is available to people who, be interested in that. We have a career in mechanical. We have here the robotic or electronic engineering. But I want to tell you a little story about the original equipment manufacturing apprenticeship. A lot of people will say to you, I don't know about that. No, I'd prefer my young lad to be an electrician. Why is that? Because if you can't see it, or if you don't know what it is, you can't be it. So we have a problem going on where the age profile sometimes of the parent doesn't realize the new initiative, like robotics now, that what Paula would be doing. But it's, if you can't see it, or if you don't have a tangible thing around it, you're not sure what it is. So we're trying to say to people, look at the other options, familiarize yourself with, say our original equipment manufacturing. Do you want to work in manufacturing? Can you do this? Can you look at these kind of careers? What do they entail? What are the jobs there? What companies will take you on in the region? And if so, by virtue of that, if you understand it, you can then maybe take it up and look at an apprenticeship in something that wasn't what your parents would have done or what another generation would have done. So that's an interesting one. We have that. You can look that up online. You can look at our original equipment manufacturing. Under the July stimulus, and any company that's on board is listening, the apprenticeship incentivization scheme, there's a 3,000 payment to employers to support apprenticeships. So there is no doubt policy in this country from a government level is supporting employers to support apprentices. Now, employers on the call might say they could do with a little bit more incentivization, or they could do with some more funding in that. I won't get into that for the point of view of the presentation. I would just leave it to say that that is there, and that has been extended, and we had all sorts of problems with the pandemic, etc. So just that you're aware, it's very important to say, because mental health is a huge topic at the moment. You can see the pandemic had a big knock-on effect on anxiety levels. You heard all the commentary yesterday on people wanting to return to work as much as people wanting to avoid long commutes and that. And there are mental health supports, and there's a great campaign running within apprenticeships now. It's are you okay, as an are you okay is the initials. So that's checking in on young people and older people who are in that apprenticeship route and just saying, is it going okay for you, the training, the studies? How can we help? How can we look at that in the background? I think we're all familiar, unless you're under a rock and you're not listening to any of the news or the radio or any of the papers, but there is a whole revamp planned of the online, sorry, I have a typo there, the online CAO system. And that will change matters. I mean, there is no doubt there are other countries in Europe where it's not a big thing that you don't go to college. It's kind of, you may go the skills route to do an apprenticeship, or you may go to the university, or you may go take a year out, or you might do a preparatory course for college. We seem to have got caught up a lot more in, our numbers for higher ed are well over the up in the late 60%. And that's very interesting for us. So maybe it's about people looking at choices, people looking at the way they learn, their learning style. There are multiple intelligences out there, multiple learning styles, and then adopting that for the course they want to do. So I hope that helps. And
thanks, Eimear. Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
There are some questions coming in, and like that, we'll run those through as and when everybody has finished sharing their information with us. And if you'd like to take over now, Elaine.
Yeah.
Elaine Butler, thank you so much for joining us. You are the Program Manager from Flexible Learning Centre in UL. So thanks for joining us, and we'll leave it to you, Elaine. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Finn, and to Eddie for the invite to come on the call this morning. And I'm just maybe going to follow up with some opportunities for employment-based learning with us at the university. And I'll just add maybe to what Eimear has just mentioned in terms of apprenticeships, because for a lot of people, they're going to college is probably not attainable. But if you can undertake an apprenticeship through the University of Limerick, which may be a further opportunity for anybody who is considering further education and training. So I'm just going to mention just 2 programs. So there are plenty of opportunities within the university for earning and learning. One is apprenticeships, but the other are springboard opportunities. So if I just maybe continue on from Eimear's presentation, at the University of Limerick, we have 7 apprenticeship programs, and we have apprenticeships from diploma, which is a 2-year level 7 diploma, right up to a level 10 4-year doctorate in engineering. And you can work your way up through apprenticeships and gain your doctorate in engineering all while you work. So if you, for any of the programs within the university, obviously you have to meet certain academic requirements. But all of these apprenticeships are available to employees who are working currently within organisations. So who are currently working within their employers, they can undertake an apprenticeship programme without it affecting their employment contracts. So it's not a case that you have to hand in your notice and go to college for 2 years to undertake whatever degree or a diploma that you're looking for. You work and learn at the same time. So for our apprenticeship programs, there's a couple of requirements from an apprenticeship perspective. So an apprentice, you have to meet the academic entry requirements for your program of study. But for some of those programs of study, the apprenticeship requirements, the academic requirements vary. So for anybody who's interested in the Supply Chain Associate, which is a level 7 2-year apprenticeship program, the entry requirements on that is your Leaving Cert. But you must have a contract of employment and be working within a supply chain area within your employer. So it's at entry level, so it's open entry. Anybody who doesn't have a Leaving Cert, but has been working for a couple of years within a supply chain field within their employer, we can certainly have a look at their application and consider it under recognition of prior learning. You must have company support or commitment for the duration of the apprenticeship program. So your employer has to be on board. You have to meet the necessary on-the-job learning requirements. So what we teach you is one option, but the other part of it is how you apply what we teach you to practice. So it's applying your theory to practice and how you can take examples from your workplace and feed it back in as part of your assignments on your course studies. You must be Irish-based and have an Irish contract of employment, and you must be able to meet the English language requirements by the university. And that's for any level of apprenticeship program that we have. If there's any employers who are on the call and are interested in one of the apprenticeship programs, you must have a contract of employment, obviously, for your apprentice. You must be able to provide them with enough opportunity to apply their theory to practice, so give them work experience across your company. You must provide them with an in-company mentor who can support the apprentice. The purpose of an in-company mentor for these apprenticeship programs, it's not for skills competencies or to tick a box and say, yes, you have reached a certain attainment or level. The purpose for the in-company mentor is to support and facilitate the learning of an apprentice. So it's to help them and to guide them, to give them access to information across the company, to help them to apply their theory to practice. And obviously to give the apprentice time off for study or to attend any of their lectures. Now, the important element to understand with these is there's no block release. So you work and learn at the same time. So there's no need for you to take blocks of time away from your work to facilitate your studies. They're all wrapped into one. A huge bonus for the apprenticeship route is the fees. So fees can be very off-putting for somebody who wants to go to university. I can say it's just out of my range, but fees for the apprenticeship program are €900 per year, regardless of the program of study with us at the University of Limerick. So for 7 programs, the fees will be €900 per year. So if you're just to put that in context, it's a saving of approximately €7,250 on a 2-year degree or diploma program. So that's a huge saving for anybody who's interested. For the apprenticeship programs, as I said, you have to meet the academic entry requirements, but usually if it's something is a level 7, you'd step back, you must have a level 6. For something that's at a level 8 or degree level, you must have a level 7. A level 9 is master's, so you must go back one and have a level 8 of a degree in order to apply and get in. But certainly, if anybody is interested in any of these programs, if they have a CV, they can send us the CV and we'll come back to them with some advice on where you would be best pitched. There is another opportunity. So apprenticeships is just one part of it. We have another opportunity to earn and learn, and that's through our Springboard programs. So Springboard is an initiative that was launched a couple of years ago, and it is providing access to higher education programs from a level 6 up to a level 9 masters for everybody. So they're there and opportunities for those who are unemployed, those who are returning after a period of time away from education or from work, or for those who are currently employed to upskill or to reskill themselves and to enable them to apply for opportunities and jobs in the future. So it has, their website is springboardcourses.ie. So you must make sure that you are eligible for the program to start with. There's a couple of terms and conditions on it. So you need to be able to provide documentation in terms of your eligibility, whether you're employed, whether you're in receipt of a social welfare payment, whether you're returning to work. You must have a CV. You must be able to gauge what your understanding, what your interest is within that role, within the program that you're applying for. So how do you know what to apply for? There's a whole range of options out there. So how do you know what to apply for? So in terms of Springboard, the opportunities for courses are usually in the areas of information communications technology, construction, manufacturing, international financial services, hospitality, entrepreneurship, business areas. So there's a whole range of them. Do you have to attend college? Do I have to, take time away or take annual leave to attend my program if my employer isn't supporting it? So there's different options and there's different platforms for learning. So some of the programs are face-to-face, so you would have to attend your studies on campus in whatever institution it is. Some are fully online, some are distance learning, and some might be a combination of both. So you may have one day a month where you'd have to attend your studies on campus, and that may be a Saturday. So it depends. Each program has different requirements and different terms and conditions. As I said, for all of the programs, you should be able to meet the academic entry requirements, but they would always consider your application based on the grounds of what your experience is and what is your potential to be able to complete your course of study. So it's one thing to apply and get on the program. It's a different thing to come off the other side with your piece of paper. So if you think about, for anybody who is looking to apply for a level 7, step back and you must have a level 6. If you think a Leaving Cert is a level 4 or a level 5, so that will give you just an idea of where to pitch yourself. Again, if you're looking to apply for a level 8, a degree, you should have a level 7 or diploma behind you, and a level 9 master's, you should have a level 8 behind you. Fees, huge opportunities for individuals to grab hold of the programs available under Springboard. So anybody who is looking at applying for a level 6, fees are 100% funded. There are no fees, it's free. Anybody who is looking for a level 7 to a level 9, if you're in receipt of a social welfare payment or you are returning to education after a period away, it's 100% funded. If you are employed, they're 90% funded, so you must pay 10% of those fees. As I said, all of the courses and all of the opportunities are available on springboardcourses.ie, and they are from around the country. But just to give you just a flavour of what we have in the university. So we would have 2 intakes. One would be in January and one would be in September. So obviously the September one, the time has passed for that. So most of our programmes are up and running. But for opportunities starting in January, we have a couple of different opportunities at level 7, level 8 and level 9. And everything from mobile communications to lean, supply chain, health and safety. So there's a couple of different options, but I'm just going to take one, and it's available to everybody, regardless of whether you're working or whether you're at home and considering going back to work or seeking a job and not sure, well, it's been a while since I've been in a workplace. I'm not sure how to be able to cope or what's required of me at this stage. So one of our programs that we have is a workplace transversal skills certificate. Now it sounds very complicated, but in terms of what it undertakes is it's a 1-year program, and it looks at how you can apply your soft skills to any job or any role that you'll undertake. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if you're at entry level or whether you're the CEO of the company. It's looking at what are those soft skills. So there's 8 different areas it'll hit or target. So one is learning to learn. So looking at remote working skills or online learning, teamwork, change, cultural diversity, applicable at any level and at any role. Career development, how to take your goals, your aspirations and transform them into goals, and how to see those out. Looking at what tips and tricks are there for remote working, as well as being in the office and working in communication with your colleagues and with your peers. Problem solving tools and techniques, so how we tackle problems, how we solve them. And then it's a real life practical application of how you put all of these in place. So that's over 1 year. And it's free. There's no charge on that. And you get a certificate, a level 7 certificate from the University of Limerick on it. So I am happy to take questions, or if anybody has any queries, you can certainly send me an email. My email address is elaine.butler@ul.ie, and I'm happy to have a chat with anybody in terms of their understanding or what's available for me.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Elaine. Very interesting. And I think, much as we sometimes, rail against the pandemic, in the last couple of years, in actual fact, it has opened opportunities for a lot of people. I mean, I know of a lady who enrolled in, she's based down here, but she's actually doing her springboard up in UCD because it's blended and it's mainly online, and she'd never have had that opportunity, to do that, other than the fact that it had to move online because of the pandemic. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Finn, we have apprentices on our programs, on 6 of our programs. We have 7 which is not launched yet, won't be ready to go until next September, but at every age and at every level within an organisation. So we have apprentices from 20 up to 60. There's no age, and most of our apprenticeship programs are 2 years in duration, so they're available to most people.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you. And like that, all your, as you mentioned already, all your information as with all the other panelists will be online afterwards. And you're also going to be here to take questions for us. I see them coming in. Thank you to everybody who's filling the questions there in our Q&A, and please keep them coming in. I will get back to them at the end of the session. Our final presenter today is Cian. Cian is a 4th year apprentice with the ESB. So Cian, welcome and thanks for joining us.
No bother at all. Yeah. And
tell us, why did you decide to go down the apprentice route?
Well, I don't know. I was kind of always working with my hands, I suppose. That's what I kind of enjoyed, and that's what I was good at in school. And I kind of knew that college probably wouldn't be for me. It was a bit intense study-wise, and it wouldn't suit. I wouldn't be able to concentrate enough in that for 4 years straight. I felt that I mightn't be able to do it. And it's kind of well broken up across the apprenticeship, across the 4 years, the study side of things. So that's what kind of lined up for me, and as well, the bonus of earning over the 4 years as well was nice.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the main reason behind it. Really, yeah.
And tell us, talk us through how you applied, the process you went through, and how it worked for you.
Well, I decided that I was going to go down the electrical route. So I chose a couple of different apprenticeships. Like, so I chose between instrumentation and then just the general electrician role. So I got an apprenticeship with Regeneron in Limerick there as an instrumentation apprentice, and I just felt the outside work when I got the USB apprenticeship, it would have suited me better. So that's kind of what I done was I applied. They're all aptitude based. Most of the apprenticeships are now aptitude based. And what I done when I left school was over the course of the summer, I done one of these. It was like kind of talking you through the aptitudes and how they work, you know, because it's kind of daunting to go straight into an aptitude test and not knowing what's happening, you know, or what way it works. So that's what I done, and I kind of an awful lot of the lads that are in the apprenticeship with me, they've done the same thing as well. They went to I think it's Career Solutions. They're the company that run it. It's just a Saturday, and they talk you through interviews and everything like that, you know, because it's not points based, any of it, but it's very much there. When you go for an interview, it's very much dependent on your skill with people, like, you know, to get the apprenticeships. So that's why I kind of done it, you know. I kind of researched it a bit, and what suited me best. That's what I felt anyway. So that's kind of how I went about it, and just looking out over the summer. And let's say it usually kind of starts just before the exams. People will be looking for lads, you know. So that's kind of the way I worked, and I liked ESB, and I liked that Regeneron company as well. So that's kind of what I aimed at.
Okay, you had an embarrassment of choices.
Yeah. See, when I finished school that year, there was very few people doing apprenticeships. There was 14 of us, 14 friends, and I was the only one that went to the apprenticeship route. Like, so there is still loads of you always, when you're out in jobs, you're always meeting sparks and plumbers and everything, and they're crying out looking for apprentices. They can't get them, like, you know. There's loads of work there, and really interesting work as well. It's so diverse. Like, electrician, now you just think it's going around wiring houses and things like that, but you have so many different breakups within that role. You have instrumentation, you have let's say line work is what I'm at, and kind of high voltage stuff, and then you have house wiring, and you have, let's say, factory work. You know, there's so much within it. Like, you know, it's not just, you might train at one thing, but there's loads of different, you can progress very much so in the apprenticeship, I think, in it.
Yeah. So I'd say you'd have to be able to, I mean, if you were going to tell me about the qualities that anyone in a practical apprenticeship needs, there is a lot of adaptability, would you say? What other skills do you think you'd need?
You need to be interested anyway. That's the main thing. You know, you have a lot to take in fast, you know, over the course of 4 years, because you're trying out on your feet after 4 years. An awful lot of it, you're qualified, you know. I'm supposed to be qualified, but the COVID kind of backlogged it and things like that. So I'm kind of lucky in some ways that I'm still an apprentice, you know, because there's so much to take in. It's kind of absorbing that information. What else could you say? And just generally interested, you know, and kind of have a good head for things if you can at all. If you're practically minded, you get on grand, and you have a bit of kind of a bit sciencey and maybe a bit mathsy, you know. That was kind of what I was at in school. Like, I didn't really, the English and things like that I wouldn't have been great at, but the practical side of things I would have been a bit better at. So that's why it's generally them kind of qualities that you need, I think.
And tell me, if you were to tell me what the most rewarding thing about the apprenticeship route has been, and also what the most challenging thing has been, what would you say to those? The most rewarding thing is, I suppose, just a hard question, not answer. Money. Earn while you learn.
Yeah, I suppose that's rewarding as well. Like that, you know.
Yeah,
you can do what you want. You have money. You have money all the time. So you're not dependent. Your weekends are your own. You know, like that. You don't have to come home from college and try and earn a few bob. Like my mates do. Like they have to work the weekends and things like that. And as well as that, like, it's kind of, you're always clued in when you go to college. You're clued in all the time, instead of let's say, and a good few of my friends now, they had left college and they're actually gone the apprenticeship route again. It's kind of, I'm out of my, let's say, I'm coming out of my time now after 4 years, and the lads are only starting, like, you know, they didn't agree with college. And it very much so, I saw it wasn't pushed on us in school, the apprenticeship route. It was kind of more go to college. Let's say among the group of friends, you know, not by teachers or anything like that. I think it's kind of, but I see an awful lot of lads going back to the apprenticeship now. They kind of see the benefits of it, and the work is there. So it's rewarding in that aspect. See some of the boys as well, they qualified through the ITs and the universities, and it's a very broad qualification. So you have to work hard to get it work. But with the apprenticeship, it's your electrician. So, and there's a job there for an electrician. So it's much easier to attain a job, I suppose, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I suppose the money is the most rewarding thing, I suppose, you know? That's all I can say.
And the challenges then, tell you, what did you find toughest about that transition into the apprenticeships?
I suppose just the constant work, let's say when storms come, you could be out at all hours. The environment you're working in, you're used to that classroom during the winter when you're in school, and
comfort.
you come out into this shit at times, as I say, pardon my French, you know, cold and wet and things like that. But that's part of it. But you're out during the summer then and everything, and you know, it's a brilliant place to be. But I suppose in my side of things, heights and things like that. An awful lot of heights and heavy work, you know. But then at the other side of it, there's other parts of that of the trade which you wouldn't be in that environment, you know. But it's challenging in that way. And then the one thing I do find you could find challenging is after, it might be 2 years before you go to phase 2 or 3 years before you go to phase 4, and it can take a while to tune back into the classroom side of things, you know. So it can be challenging in that way, a small bit, but if you have a good standard of maths and things like that, you'll get through it no better anyway. You know, it's not, as long as you don't bog yourself down and leave everything until the last minute, which I can't say I'm great for doing, but you get through it anyway, you know. So yeah. That's kind of about it, really. Yeah. So
do as you say, not as you do. Is that it?
Yeah, that's
your
true.
advice.
Yeah.
Listen, thank you so much for your input. It's been really interesting and very informative, and we appreciate your time. And now I'm going to hand you over to Eddie from the Youth Employment Service, which is a separate and distinct part of the Rural Employment Service that works with people under the age of 25. So over to you, Eddie, to give a background on our service. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Finn. So the Rural Employment Service, as Finn has said, has kind of two distinct pieces. Is the Rural Employment Service, which works with people of all ages, and then the Youth Employment Service, which works with under 25 specifically. But the type and range of the service is very similar in what we do. So who we are, the Rural Employment Service, the RES is the abbreviation of it. That's our office in the Roundhouse in Newcastle West. So hopefully in the very near future, we'll be able to meet people face to face again. An awful lot of what we're doing at the moment is still on a virtual basis, on phone, on WhatsApp, online, and on Zoom calls. But hopefully as time passes, we'll be able to get back meeting people face to face. So we work with individuals who, for lots of reasons, are finding it difficult to access employment and training. So it's a free and confidential service. It's one-to-one, and it's guidance for people across West Limerick. We do some group as well, and part of what you'll see in a minute is some of the training that we provide, and it's predominantly around to either enter or re-enter employment, education and training. So it's all about the preparation, really. And what we try and do is support people and do a lot of goal setting to identify the needs and the barriers and the challenges to that employment. Sometimes it can be a lack of transport. Sometimes it can be around a specific type of training, or sometimes it can be a person it's been a while since somebody has been in employment. So part of that is a progression piece, and we figure out the steps. So as I said already, a lot of what we do is around goal setting. So that covers a broad spectrum of things, and it looks at the person's capacity. It looks at person's what education they have, what kind of training they've had already, looking at their work history if they have some already, and then setting some goals. And we kind of break that down as much as possible to the point where it is very step by step. You'll see from the poster there that we are offering training next week on the 27th and 28th of September. And that's in relation to kind of base training. So we offer this type of training every now and then. And it's a way to kind of engage the people back into a training environment. The first day is manual handling, safe use of PPE and chemical awareness. And an awful lot of employers look for these types of base tickets for direct employment. And that covers lots of different types of employment as well. Where apprenticeships and stuff like that are concerned, it is very important that actually, and you will hear from the speakers earlier, it's important to show the different types of progression that people are on. So it's a good win. They're good training, and it shows progression in the person. The Safe Pass as well is a full day's training, and lots of different types of employment look for that directly. So it's about helping people find direction in employment and training. I don't know, we've said that word, those two words a lot, but it's a fact of where people are right now, and where they actually want to get to. And most of the time, it's about us reflecting back to people where they are at, and it's about empowering people, and we advocate for them as part of what we're doing. So our supports are for all members of the community. So we work across a range of all types of demographics, and that goes from urban and rural, it goes from male, female, it also goes for different nationalities. We have a lot of economic migrants that are in the country. There's lots of jobs out there that aren't filled at the moment, and there are people coming into Ireland who do need extra types of supports. So we're there as part of that. We've used translation services very recently as part of our own role and part of our own rollout of what we do. But also we're kind of looking at what else can we do, and what are the blockages for people who may be economic migrants coming into Ireland. We've also in the past worked with people that are asylum seekers in direct provision, and that has its own specific areas that we need to support people on as well. So we're part of CICAP, and as the CICAP program is under social inclusion and community activation. And there are, I'm not going to name out all the stats on that, but I suppose the reality is for an awful lot of what we do, the amount of individuals that we support, the kind of groups, the type of training that we offer can move and kind of, it can change to what the needs are at the time. We also support an awful lot of community groups where social enterprise is concerned as well. That's part of our role. So we would support people in lots of different types of areas of work. So sorry, this is abbreviated already for me and I should have known this. So it is social and community activation. So the areas of kind of assistance is around sourcing and applying for work. It's interview preparation and practice, which is very important in today's environment. Unfortunately, most jobs are still achieved, most employment is still achieved, I should say, from an interview source. So that's kind of changed a little bit over the last 2 years. An awful lot of employers still like to try and meet people face to face, but there has been a shift to online interview process and practice. So there are differences in the two of those, and it does make a difference if you practice your interview process. There is a piece around personal development support as well, and that can be other areas of people's lives that they may need support in. And through the process of actually creating a personal progression plan with people, we do often find that people may need other support. So we can signpost people into other agencies and for whatever other supports they may need. So again, part of what we do, and you saw with our panelists today, we work an awful lot with different agencies, but also with education providers as well. So and at all levels. So from a very base level for the type of training we offer, through the LCETB and all the QQI courses, and then on to third level as well. And we try and find where an individual is at and where they actually like to get to. So the CV piece is very important as well. And again, it's important to reflect back to people what they have in their CVs. And we look at it from an employer's point of view and what employers actually look for. And as well as self-employment advice and guidance. I think that's very important as well. And we have other colleagues who actually helps people specifically around self-employment, enterprise and social enterprise support. As you saw from today, we have the partners that we work with. We also offer support around SUSI grants and applying for different type of grants as well. So there are different areas of support within the social welfare system, but also with LCFE, with third level and SUSI applications as well. So these are our numbers. You know Finn, she's already doing all the hard work here today. That's her number and that's my number. There are our emails, and at any stage, throw us an email, give us a call, and we'll try and help you as much as we can. And I think that's me. So that's me, Finn. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks for that. I am going to go through the questions now, if that's okay with everyone. The first question is, are all apprenticeships 4 years?
And can I take that?
Yeah.
No, not all apprenticeships are 4 years. So that is the kind of the traditional trade apprenticeship was a 4-year apprenticeship. And when people think trade, apprenticeships, they think trades. So you have to, there's so many options out there. A number of them would be 4-year apprenticeships, and a number of them would have the different phases, but some of them are set up over 2 years and over 3 years. But can I just say, Cian, I want to book you for about 7 different events coming up. It is exactly what I was trying to say in my paper, but you just encapsulated it perfectly. As you said, you were one of 14 who did an apprenticeship, so therefore you covered exactly what we were talking about, the figures. But secondly, you made a really good point, which was that you recognized the way you learned, and you recognized what was suitable for you. And that's what we need more of. We need more of that conversation. And you said it wasn't about your guidance counselors, your teachers, it was your peer group. And this is really important. It's the peer group often push people towards one way or the other. But you strike me as you knew what you wanted, you went after it, and I'd say you're brilliant at what you do.
So from Mary here, can an adult do an apprenticeship? I wouldn't have the school qualifications, but I do have some experience. I think that's a yes, but
yes,
Elaine, would you maybe feel that? Yeah.
Yeah, certainly, Finn. I mean, apprenticeships are not defined by age. Education doesn't define you by your age. There are opportunities available at every level. But for our apprenticeships in the university, we have apprentices that are spanning 40 years of age, from the 20s up to the 60s. And there's opportunities, it depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
And the area that you want to focus in. But yeah, certainly.
I would agree with Elaine there, Finn, because I would say we market apprenticeships to career changers. So if you look at a lot of people who lost their jobs in the hospitality, and a lot of people who, because of the pandemic and that, we've a number of career changers, 37 saying, do you know what, maybe I might look at this. Maybe this is something I could be good at. And they're looking at the apprenticeship model. So you're never too young or too old.
Perfect. Are you guaranteed a job after you finish apprenticeship training?
Well, can I come in there? Because you see, Cian alluded to something which is very interesting. Oftentimes when you do an apprenticeship, particularly in the traditional craft apprenticeships, you are something. If you take I am an electrician, I am a plumber. So as he said rightly, you have a job at the end of your 4 years. Oftentimes, if you are a business graduate or an arts graduate or a science graduate, you then have to specialize. You're coming out with your broad-based background of then where you have to specialize. But Cian is absolutely right. When you come out after your 3 years or your 4 years, you are an electrician. You are a welder. So therefore, he's right. You've either been apprenticed to a company where there may be employment for you there, but you have a very specific skill set, and that often determines that you step very quickly into employment. Paul, I don't know if Paula would like to come in there. Would you agree?
I think from an employer perspective, definitely it's the employer's way of managing their resources for the future. So they build their own skilled staff internally. So most definitely there'd be a job at the end of it, because as I say, it's an integral part of the whole resource planning.
Yeah.
You build your own staff. Yeah.
That even in supply chain, so people think supply chain, they think toilet paper in the pandemic, pasta, those kind of things. But as of today, there's 1,045 jobs on Irish Jobs for supply chain staff. Every organisation is crying out for supply chain staff because it just covers such a range of roles and jobs within companies, everything from transport, logistics, warehousing, planning, forecasting, global supply chain directors within organizations. It covers such a broad area. So there's huge opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Paula, the next question is for you. Design Pro have very cool projects. Is there a way to have a work experience with them? There you go. You've got a fan club.
Okay. So yeah, most definitely we encourage a work experience. Now, while we have to be careful from the health and safety side, particularly in the actual machine building aspect, where you're exposed to all the moving parts, you know, while you're building the machine. So within reason, on the engineering side, obviously, if you're looking at the automation programming, you could shadow somebody for a week or a few weeks and get to know their skill. And same on the office side of things, you could actually physically do work there. We just have to be careful on the engineering side. But it would be a lot of observing, and maybe there are certain jobs that can be given to the person looking for the experience. Yeah, so we would be definitely open to work experience.